Hi friends, I hope everyone is doing well. I brought out my slow stitch art journal for today's collage with me video. I promised myself to create more in this neglected art journal that I made back in 2020. Not sure why I haven't created more in this journal. Hand stitching is very cathartic and it's a great way to unwind from your day. I have another collage with me video using this journal. I'll put a link to that video in the description area if you're interested in taking a look. Let's go over now the supplies we'll be using. Here are the supplies we'll be using. First, our hand-dyed fabric. So we have a brown, some green, some rust, some dark and light, and I call this medium, and then some of this terracotta. So this is all fabric that I hand-dyed. I have separated the fabric that I'd like to use in this journal in this box. It's mostly fabric that I hand dyed, except for this denim that is from an old pair of my jeans. I thought it'd be easier for me to create in this journal if the fabric is already curated. So besides the fabric, we have embroidery thread. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use all 4 of these threads, but I'd rather have them out and ready to use if needed. Pins, glue stick, just in case I can't secure the fabric with the pins, scissors, sewing needles. So now we're ready to start collaging. I've chosen this page to collage, and if I get into a groove, I'll collage this adjoining page as well. My idea for this collage is for the fabric pieces to be organic in shape, no perfectly straight edges. I was inspired by this piece of fabric, and I'm not sure if or how I'm going to use it, but I wanted to share the collage inspiration. Also, I wanted to show you the previous collage. This one had straight edges, and so I don't want to mimic this collage. I want to do something different. So what I'm going to do first is audition shapes and try to figure out a layout, and then we'll start actually sewing the collage pieces in. So just a reminder, this section will have a mix of narration and music. So let's get started. I initially was cutting this fabric for this shape, but after I did, I like what this negative space looks like because you can see some of this ground fabric coming through. I like how there's a variation of colors. I believe this was some sun-dyed, no, let me take that back. I believe this was ice-dyed fabric, so it has some nice variation of light and dark. So I think what I'm going to do is use this piece instead of this one. And I'm going to use the pins like I did when I cut this shape out to just lightly mark where I want to cut the second line to get this shape. And what I'm going to do is probably like a 3/4 of an inch, just cut out that shape so it lays in here nicely, and cut away this area, which is too heavy anyway. And I like using a pin sometimes instead of a pencil because it makes the shape more organic. As you notice, I'm starting to work on the other page as well. And it's one of those things, I did get into the groove when I started cutting these shapes so large that it just naturally spilled over to the other page. Kind of frees up my designing process that I had this big work area instead of just this area right here. I like this off-center cutout, so I'm going to do the same thing for this piece as well. It looks a bit heavy. Now this piece, there's really nothing interesting underneath it. So what I'm going to do is leave this as is, but I am going to start stitching down what we have now. The collage is far from being completed, but for my eye right now is I need to tack some places down with some hand stitching just to see what the next move will be. Because I know there's some areas that are open, like in here, that I should add something. But I think that's best right now if I tack down what I have, maybe just a little bit of stitching of how I'm going to stitch the areas, just to get an idea of how it's looking at this stage, and then finish collaging. One more thing, since watching me hand stitch all the fabric pieces will make this video very long and possibly very boring, I will edit out some of the stitching sections. I will show you some of the process so you can see how I stitch in this journal. All of the fabric pieces are sewn down, and I did trim off any of the fabric that was hanging off the edge. So now we can take a look and to see what we need to either add or change to the collage. The first area is this area up here. It looks a bit heavy and awkward. I stitched a second line of thread so I could see what the piece would look like if I cut away the top section. And I've decided that the top section will be cut away. So that's one decision made. The second area is this left side of the spread. I don't want to add another large piece of shape to this area here. I'm thinking about a few smaller shapes to add interest to the design. And the final area is this terracotta shape. It looks unfinished. I need to decide if I want to add a small bit of fabric off center somewhere and then more stitching, or just to add more stitching. And I think I'm going to hold off on this decision until the end because I want to do all the other areas and just see what would work with this piece. So I'm going to cut away this top area and then start auditioning some shapes for this area here. I like the size of these green pieces, but I think it'd be too much green if we have the two shapes here, this shape and this shape. Let's try another one. We have the light rust, which is a nice choice because we only have the light rust up here. So that's an option, but I think I would go large, a little bit larger. Let's try another color. Let's do the terracotta. I actually like the terracotta. Let's see if we do two of the terracotta and then one of the light rust. That could be interesting. Switch places. Let's see. I like this option because all three of these pieces are not the same color. And then this light rust ties in to this piece, and the two terracotta ties in with this piece. So I'm going to sew these down and then decide what I'm going to do with this piece. Now that these three pieces are sewn down, let's take a look to see if we need to add anything else before we address this terracotta shape. And my eye draws to the two reddish brown areas. What I'm going to do is add at least 1 to maybe 2 lines of stitching, and then we'll address this terracotta shape. Now that everything is sewn, we need to address this terracotta shape. So I have some circles that were left over from when we were auditioning the circles over here. So let's do the green first, and we can always cut it down. Then let's try the light rust. Let's try the reddish brown. I don't know if you see what I see, but this shape kind of reminds me of an avocado or an egg. And once I put either color down, I think of it as a sliced avocado or sunny side up egg. So I'm not going to add another piece of fabric. So all I'm going to do is add some more stitching, and then I'll clean up, and then we'll do one final review. Here's the finished collage. At another time, I'll come back and sew the adjoining pages together like I did over on this page. Let me show you here. This is the stitching right along here that I sewed for this page to join with this page. That's why I left some of the areas unstitched around the edges. For example, this area right here. This added stitching will add another element of design to the spread. Also, it doesn't bother me that the binding thread is showing through. Again, it can be another design element. This is the first spread that I created in this journal. Usually I create one page at a time, and I'm very happy with the way it turned out. This spread has elements that I appreciate in a collage. It has movement. So, for example, that means that the placement of the elements help the viewer eye travel around the spread. Also, there's variation of size and color of the elements. We have light, medium, and dark colors. And there's large and small elements. And in my opinion, there's a good balance of stitched and non-stitched areas. So all in all, I'm happy with the way it turned out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye now.